In Tech Matters, the FITARA report card. This week, U.S. Chief Information Officer Tony Scott and a handful of agency CIOs appeared on Capitol Hill. It was the first of several expected hearings on a landmark law, the Federal IT Acquisition Reform Act. That report card did not paint a pretty picture. Joining me with more is Jason Miller, executive editor at Federal News Radio, 1500 AM in Washington. Jason, before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's take a look at the report card itself. The overall grade is on the right-hand side. Most agencies earned a D, 3 earned an F, and red is pretty bad. It covers about half of the board here. What should we take away from all this? It seems like a demoralizing start for FITARA.
Right, if it was your child, you probably would ground them. But really, it's the first step in a very long process. And if you think about it, FITARA has only been around a year. The implementation guidance hasn't even been around for a few months now. And agencies aren't even done with their agency-specific implementation guidance. So this report card really is just a baseline. This is the starting point for agencies to really move up from. So you really can't take this as, oh my goodness, how bad everything is, when in fact, this is just the beginning and this is a floor. So how do you build up from the floor? Well, we'll see that in the next 3, 6, 9 months.
Good, so the glass is not half empty, the glass is half full. That's good. Future scores will depend in large part on how well agencies improve IT acquisition. Category management plays a vital role in that equation.
We recently issued a category management policy to improve the acquisition and management of laptops and desktops. This memo is the first of a series of policies directing agencies to take new steps to improve the acquisition of common goods and services to drive better performance and efficiencies as required by FITARA.
Scott said the first in a series of policies. That begs the question, what's next? A policy on data center consolidation, perhaps?
Absolutely. When you heard what GAOs said about data center consolidation, they said they were not happy with how agencies are doing. They found something like 11,700 new data centers. The other piece of it is they've only closed about 3,000 of them, and they still have another 2,500 or so to close. So there's a ton of work to be done. And what OMB plans to do over the next 3, 4, 5 months is really give agencies some better ideas of what it means to close data centers, what they want from that closures. And it's not just all about closing more. So what's really important here is agencies need to also optimize data centers. One of the biggest problems that we've seen time and again within the government is the idea of percentage of capacity, how much it's being used. And a lot of times it's stuck in that 10, 15, 20% range. And really to optimize a data center, you really need to move it to the 70, 80, 90% range. So I think it's a combination of optimization and closing of those data centers.
Jason, it's pretty clear agencies still lack reliable numbers on how many data centers they operate. Here's FITARA co-author Jerry Conley.
Gotta admit, you surprised me. Off by 3,000. It seems like every hearing we have, we discover another 2,000 or 3,000 data centers.
Jason, that's amazing. Why is it so hard to get a reliable number here?
You think it wouldn't be this difficult, but really what it comes down to is the definition of what a data center is continues to change. Back in 2011, when OMB really kicked off this federal data center consolidation initiative, they had one definition. Then a couple months later, maybe a year later, they had another definition. And as they discovered more of these data centers, they range from anything from a huge basement where it's 3, 4, 5,000 square feet to a closet that just has a server and maybe a router or a switcher and maybe a print server. So they're really saying, okay, and that's what this memo is going to do for OMB and the agencies is say, what is a data center once and for all, and then how should they be addressed?
Yep, that makes sense. All right, before you go, I'd like to touch on a staffing issue. CIOs move around a lot. They change agencies and go in and out of government. It's so common that we have a regular segment on government matters called the CIO Shuffle. Will FITARA reduce the number of people with that title? If so, is that a good thing?
So it's hard to say if it will in the end, because one thing that FITARA did not include was the idea that only one person should have the title of CIO per agency. We've seen places like GSA, the General Services Administration, that had went from something to the effect of 27 CIOs down to 1. But then you have other agencies such as Treasury, which testified, that has 9 people with the title of CIOs, but they have put together a governance council where all those people with those titles comes together. So I think it's going to be on an agency by agency basis, and I think that's one of the things that the White House did push back against when the Congress was putting together FITARA.
It's great to have you on the show. Jason Miller, executive editor at Federal News Radio, 1500 AM. Thanks again.
Thank you.